The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
This morning at 6 a.m., when I got up, Rusty and I did what we do every Sunday, and that is we went out, got in the car, and drove down to Goodrich and bought the Sunday paper. That's been a part of my life as long as I can remember. In fact, when the paper used to be daily, it was a part of my daily life. I don't know when I started reading the newspaper, probably around 8 or 9, mainly for the comics. That was the reality, but eventually I began to read the whole paper from front to back. And I still do that, and I love saving the comics always for last, no matter where they are in the paper, because, no matter what happens in the world, there's something to laugh at the end. Somehow it just takes some of that away. And I've often found that there's great truth in the comics, Not all of them. Some of them are just entertaining. Years ago in 1992, I went on sabbatical, and a friend of mine said, "Dave, is there anything I can do for you?" And I said, "Yeah, would you save Prince Valiant for me?" And so he did. When I got back, I had every Sunday Prince Valiant to catch up on, so I knew how the story unfolded from when I left. But as I said, there's some great truth. I remember I was probably maybe 10, 12 years old when I read a cartoon called Pogo. Some of you will remember that. It's about a group of animals that was set in the Okefenokee Swamp in southern Georgia near the Florida border. And it was these characters that, the possum was Pogo, and Alligator was one of the other main characters. You might guess what he was. But I remember reading that, and Alligator came out with a wooden sword and a paper pirate's hat, and he said, "We have met the enemy, and it is us." And I remember already as a kid saying, that's true. Somehow I recognized that we all tend to be our own worst enemies already then. I remember another cartoon that's no longer printed, but it was Little Abner. And in that cartoon strip, which was set in Arkansas somewhere, there was this character called Joe Plitzvik. And Joe Plitzvik was this little guy who always walked around and there was a dark cloud over his head. And again, I've thought of that so often. Why is it that there are some people who, if they didn't have bad luck, would have no luck at all? There are those Joe Plitzvik characters that I've met over the years. There's a truth to that. My favorite cartoon strip, though, is Peanuts. And I go back to that again and again because I think that there's great truth in that one. And I thought of that in relationship to today's gospel. There's this one Peanuts cartoon where Charlie Brown gets up, he looks out the window, and it snowed, and it's beautiful outside. He said, I should go out and play in the snow. So he starts getting dressed, and he puts on his pants, and he puts on another pair of pants, and he puts on his boots, and he puts on a T-shirt, and then a flannel shirt, and then a sweatshirt, and a vest, and a down jacket, and his gloves, and his hat, and he goes to the door, and he's got so much on, he can't get out. He goes, ah! I love that cartoon. And I thought about that, for whatever reason, in relationship to today's gospel. When asked, how many will be saved, Jesus says, try to enter through the narrow gate. And I'm trying to think, okay, Lord, what do you mean? And I think of what he talks about, the rich man who has difficulty. It's like a camel trying to get through the eye of a needle, a low gate in the city walls. It's difficult, not impossible, but very difficult. And I think about that, there's just too much stuff. And I think, what is it that we put on when we go out into the cold, cold world? Too often we put on the T-shirt of thoughtlessness. where we just don't concern ourselves with what's going on in the lives of other human beings. Sometimes we put on the flannel shirt of greed. Sometimes we wear that vest of irresponsibility, where I see no reason why I should feel any sense of responsibility for others. I put on the coldness of heart. And in the end, I cover myself, insulate myself with self-centeredness. And there's so much on, I can't get through the narrow gate. You know, that's not the way we're supposed to be. I love in St. Paul's letter to the Colossians, and it's used in weddings most of the time. That's why I tend to remember it well. There is a wonderful passage in the 3rd chapter of that letter where Paul says that we are to put on heartfelt compassion. He goes on to describe these wonderful qualities that a Christian should have. What it is that we should wear when we go out into the world. What kind of people should we be? He says to put on heartfelt compassion, to be able to see the struggles of other people and to recognize that and to reach out to do what we can. He says, put on kindness, put on mercy, put on gentleness, put on humility. He says, bear with one another. You know, and I think that's an important thing, forbearance. The reality is that, you two brothers, right? Right, Lakota? Did you always get along? But sometimes you just have to put up with each other, right? That's what forbearance is. You just put up with each other. Sometimes one or the other is going to be a little goofy, right, Helen? Isn't that sometimes what happens? Yeah. We're always like that. But to put up with each other. Sometimes we just have to say, okay, I'll let you be who you are, and I'll accept that. He says, put on forgiveness. And he says, over all of these, put on love. What is it that the best dressed Christian wears in this world? Heartfelt compassion, kindness, gentleness, patience, forbearance, forgiveness, humility, and over all those put on love. When we come here, we learn again the lesson of the Lord Jesus, who gave himself for us and to us, so that you and I, who receive that gift of Christ in the word that he speaks and in the gift of his body and blood, can go out into this world dressed in those gifts. He gives it to us. It's all possible. It's all within the realm of possibility. It's all there in our closet. It all depends on what we choose to put on today. I can put on that self-centeredness. I can put on false pride. I can put on false thoughtlessness, a lack of concern, or I can put on kindness and gentleness and patience. I can put on forbearance and forgiveness. I can put on love. Today, the Lord offers us once more those gifts. Not just because it's our birthday, Spike, but he gives us those gifts again and again so that you and I can be the best dressed in what matters in the world. For those who find that those clothing fit them well, in the end, those are the ones that are able to enter through the narrow gate. Those are the ones welcomed, Lord Jesus will recognize, because he sees us dressed in what he has provided for us for this banquet of the heavenly kingdom. We've heard the saying that clothes don't make the person. And there's some truth to that. But, it does make a difference. It makes a difference if I'm dressed warmly for the winter and more lightly for the summer months. Clothes do make a difference. They can give a better presentation or not, One of the reasons I became a priest is because I heard years ago that black makes you look taller and thinner. And the other day I was down in Brighton for a funeral, and people came up to me and said, well, you've gotten taller. And some others said, you look thinner. And I thought, there goes, black again, It makes the difference. Except what really makes a difference is what the Lord gives us. Today, once more, we come here and he gives us that clothing. He enables us to put on those things that make a difference in this world, that bring the kingdom to this world, that show us to be children of that kingdom. He gives us the ability once more to put on heartfelt compassion, and kindness, and forgiveness, and forbearance, and humility, and gentleness, and over all of that, to put on love. The question is, what will we wear when we leave these doors? What will we wear when we go out tomorrow? How will we dress? Those who dress for success know that it's best to wear what the Lord provides, because in the end, they're able to enter through the narrow door.